we don't realize how good we have it.
Mm-hmm.
We have it very well. We're blessed.
The world's gonna be way fucking harder on them, and it's gonna punch them in the mouth.
Over the years, I've been surprised hearing how supposedly horrible it is to be a masculine person.
Yeah, really, just how this conversation is. We're able to bounce those things off and like check one another, how we're raising our children, how we're being a husband and father. All right, so we are here with professional boxer Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez was a 2008 Mexican Olympian and a 2012 Mexican Olympian. And in 2012, he was signed by Top Rank Boxing. Oscar Valdez is a 2 division world champion, and you currently hold an interim title. Is that right? That you won 2 weeks ago.
That's correct. Happy to be here and happy to be in this position now as a world champion. As an interim world champion, maybe we'll wait on the results of Vaquero Navarrete and Leon Wilson, what their results are going to be if I become the absolute champion. But as right now, I'm happy and where the position I'm at right now.
Yeah, no, that is exciting. Another chapter in your career. I want to just thank you for hopping on here with me today. And we know this isn't really a boxing podcast,
Yep.
but one of the things that I admire about you being a professional boxer is the amount of discipline that goes in to getting all those accolades that we just talked about. Because I feel like we live in a culture of, undisciplined men, let alone an undisciplined society. So I kind of want you to touch on like what it is that you get from boxing and how that discipline has helped you achieve that, because that you could probably take that same discipline and put it into business, but like where does that discipline come from?
So discipline comes from boxing in general
Hmm.
for me. Because when I was a little kid, it was a combination between my father and boxing. My father's always was always a strict father, very disciplined father, a father who had a very military lifestyle for me. He always tried to push that discipline in me as far as sports. And the one sport that united with me was boxing. He knew that I loved boxing so much that he used that as a tool for me. So I wasn't always the brightest man and the brightest kid in school, but he used that since he knew that I was so in love with boxing that he said several times, if you get bad grades, you're not going to go to boxing class. And he always kept his word. That's one thing that I always noticed about my dad, that he was a man. He's always been a man of his word. And if I ever came back to home with bad grades, I remember he said, "Well, you're not going to boxing no more." And it was pretty miserable for me because it was just stay back, stay home. And I knew he wasn't joking around. So it starts pretty much from back home, having a strict father, a loving father, but strict, and knowing that he wasn't messing around. So once I started getting my grades up again, we started going boxing, and then just boxing teaches you a lot, discipline and sports in general. It teaches you a lot of hard work. To get to achieve your dreams, you can't just rely on talent. You
Hmm.
gotta be you gotta depend on more of discipline than anything else. So that discipline that I have, that I use right now in my boxing career, is definitely because of my father, because of boxing and sports in general.
Yeah, and being your father yourself, I'm sure that you've seen this. You mentioned your father. Your father was a man of his word, and when he would discipline you or tell you weren't going to go to boxing, he didn't let you. He didn't budge. He didn't let you go to boxing. Too many parents these days, I see them tell their son or daughter, "Hey, you're not getting XYZ because you did something wrong," but then they give in. And you see those kids know, like, oh, if I just push my parents a little bit, they'll give in. They're not going to stick to their word.
So kids are smart, kids are
They
very smart.
are.
They learn. They know how to see their reaction, and of course, parents. I know my dad loves me. He was a
Hmm.
strict father,
Hmm.
and but he was a very disciplined father. I tell my own kids and other people's kids, like, if you guys were to see how my dad disciplined me nowadays, maybe it would be accused of child abuse, but it really isn't. It really isn't child abuse. It's just disciplinary. It's a military lifestyle, and that's the reason why I am this way. Because of my father. He never gave in. There was no feeling sorry for myself in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I see a couple of kids do that. Where the parents act up, like if they feel sorry for them and if their parents budge in, they fall for the trap, and kids
Yep.
pick that up very quick, and then they know they got you by the hands, and then they got you where they want you to. And so now you start becoming more of their friends when
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be their friends. You should be their parents. Like my father was to me. So I mean, it's like I said, it was rough growing up. It was rough, but and I can sit here and take a duck ball face, tell my father, yeah, you were so hard on me, this and that. But at the end of the day, I'm the reason why I am this way because of my father, because of that discipline that he gave me, because he will wake me up early in the morning before I go to school and maybe go run because he knew I wanted to box and I have to go run first and then come back, finish my homework if I didn't do it the night before, and then go to school. And that was just a cycle. I always I got good grades because of that, because of my dad's lifestyle, and because I love boxing so much. So that's why the reason why I always thank my father when I finish every fight, whenever I get a recognition, somebody like tells me something good about me, I always gotta thank the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and my father, because at the end of the day, that hard love that my father gave me is the reason why I am a world champion, why I went twice to Olympics, why I could call myself a good father, a good person. Um, I see sometimes kids are rude to other people, and it just surprises me what happened to the good ethics, the good morals and values of parents. So I feel sometimes we got to take a step back and realize who are we parenting? Who do you want to parent? You want him to be a successful kid, or do you want him to just be um, a spoiled kid?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the children are smart. They're going to know if they ask you 10 times, you're going to give in on that 11th. You know, they're very aware. We don't give them the credit that we should. And then at the same time, we we've kind of gotten soft because we're not giving like real old school parenting, like old school parenting where, you know, the fathers, because I believe mothers are extremely important. You know, mothers giving that love and femininity to their children from the time that they're born. But then there's a time about like maybe 6 where I think that the fathers should be taking it over, and then the fathers need to be molding him into the men that they're going to be. You know, because
Exactly.
mothers see them for who they are in the moment, but
I get it.
fathers see them for who they're going to be and who they're going to become.
Exactly, and I get it. The kids. Kids make the world go round. And
Hmm.
we love the kids. But they put that beautiful, almost feeling sorry face, and you could budge. You can fall in the trap
Yeah.
because they're your blood. They're your kids. They're the reason why you wake up in the morning to go work to fight for them, and then you don't want to see them cry. You don't want to see them feel, make them feel like us parents don't love our kids, but it's only for their own good. And just like you said as well, I feel kids do need the early age, the early stages. They do need the mother's love. They do need the mother. But about 6, 7, or 8 is where they need the father role model, the
Hmm.
the the disciplinary, because life is hard. Life is hard. I see some people in my family as well that where they'll cry about certain things that I like just simple stuff. And I think to myself, wow, life is way harder than that. It's way harder for you to be crying about something very small and have anxiety for that, for something so small, where the reality is that the world's cruel. We live in America, in USA, and then we live in Mexico, and we don't realize how good we have it.
Hmm.
We have it very well. We're blessed to be in this part of the world, to be in the United States. I live in Mexico, But I got a lot of family members who live in the United States and even in Mexico. You know, we're blessed over to be in this part of the world. You know, you got people all over the world in the Middle Eastern where they have it extremely rough, and then we complain about little things that, that aren't necessary or not very important in life. So we go back to the importance of having a not just a father but united family,
Yep.
having a marriage, staying married is just, nowadays I feel like it's become almost impossible. I feel like they're normalized being a single mother, a single father, and it's just sad because if you look at rates, you know, this is where you look at people who are in prison, who are in the streets, and you ask them, did you grow up with a father and mother, or with a household where they were together? And the reality is that no, they come from a single mother or a single parents,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad. So that's what we always have to fight as parents to stay in a committed relationship. Marriage is very important, and show that to our kids because we do need the mother in the early stage, and then after that, you need the father to discipline the kids and show them the cruel life that it is. But at the same time, show them that it is beautiful. It is beautiful. It is beautiful to have your kids, and if you discipline them, it might suck. It sucks to see my kids sometimes feel sad and feel that it's hard because that's how I felt when I was a kid. I would tell myself, why is my dad so hard on me? What is this? I didn't quite ever doubt that he loved me. Never, never, never. But I did, I questioned like, man, why is it so hard? I'm trying to do my best, but that's the reason why I was somewhat successful. And so
Mm-hmm.
we do need a committed family, father and mother, that work together and work through their own problems because you're always going to have problems with your wife, but it is very important to stay in that committed relationship for the kids because like I said before, kids make this world go round, and it's the reason why we train and or go to work early in the morning and just sometimes you're having a bad day, shitty day, and the kids make it worth it because that's the reason we're here.
Yep. I think you nailed it. I mean, when when people think we're being like hard on our children, especially us fathers, it is we should be at times so hard on them that we are preparing them for when they get out in the world because like you said, the world's going to be way fucking harder on them and it's going to punch them in the mouth. But at the same time, we need to show them what a loving family is on the other hand so that they know that they can always come to us. They know that there is a place to feel safe. And then us husbands and mothers were modeling how to love one another for them when they grow up because they're going to go out and find wives or they're going to go out and find husbands. But I think too often we want to just protect our kids from the world, like as much
It
as
is
we can.
hard. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that easy. Of course, it's not that easy trying to show them the cruelty of life out there. But we got to do it. As
Mm-hmm.
parents, we got to show them what the reality is, and it's a game where you want to give them everything because I didn't grow up with nothing. I grew up. We had it rough. A single parent. My father was a single parent, and I grew up with my father by himself, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I wanted toys. I wanted a PlayStation. I wanted, a decent house. We didn't have none of that. We didn't have none of that. We didn't have, sometimes my father, just had enough just for us to eat, me and him.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I always loved animals. I always loved animals. I always wanted this. I wanted that. And he said, well, we don't have it, but it's all right. What do I have? I had boxing. I
Mm-hmm.
trained. I wanted to go to a gym because my friends were there. My friends were there, and I would just go out there and talk with them and just work out. And my father knew that I loved that so much, so he started sharing that dream with me. He said he tells me all the time, yeah, I seen it in your eyes. You love that sport so much, so I had to make it my dream as well. And we just started. We started together, going through that path, and we made it. So now that I'm in a different position right now. I'm two-time Olympian, world champion, two-division world champion. I got the chance to buy the little me the
Yep.
animal that I wanted when I was a kid. I
Uh-huh.
got the chance. If my kid wants a PlayStation, I will give him a PlayStation. I want to give him everything that I didn't have. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
big mistake as well. Even though I want to do this, what I'm saying, I try not to, because
Mm-hmm.
it's you give them everything, and then they don't value the hard work that they have.
Yes.
So we gotta find a balance in life where they start to appreciate what we have. It's easier for us down in Mexico, because they do see the reality outside. They see that maybe your neighbor's not having it as good as we are. So you start to kind of appreciate the reality of what we have, the little things. Sometimes we complain about something, and I look over to my left shoulder, and I see a kid who maybe has, who doesn't have a foot, who doesn't have this, and we got to show the kids that, if we're here, we got to thank the Lord. You
Mm-hmm.
have all your
Yep.
fingers, cause we can see. We got a roof over our heads. We got food on the table. Those are all blessings. We start to realize that everything you got is a blessing. So, I think we start learning that over the years. Start to appreciate over the years. We got to make that. We got to show that to the kids at an early age, so they don't become, spoiled little kids and people who don't appreciate what they have. Like I said before, I feel like nowadays, I see a lot of family members that I have in the United States, and it's like they're spoiled. That's the right word. That
Mm-hmm.
might, they might get mad at me for saying this, but I've said this several times to them. You guys don't realize how blessed we are. And I'm just not just you girls and guys and my cousins and brothers and sisters and uncles and whatever the family, but me too. We're all blessed. So I feel that's very important to show the kids that that what we have. It's not easy out there. We got to prepare them for life, and it's almost finding the balance. They
Mm-hmm.
said before, there's no guidebook to actually be a good parent,
Yeah.
but there is a lot of information out there to
Yep.
show what the recommendations should be, because every kid's different. I got my sons is way different from my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm way different from my brothers and my sisters, but it's all how you take it also as an individual. There's a good saying, there's a father who was an alcoholic, and he has two kids, and one was successful and one was unsuccessful, just living in the streets. And when they ask him the question, why are you successful? And then when they ask this question for the guy who wasn't successful, they both have the same answer: because my dad was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important. It
Yep.
all depends on how you take life,
Yeah.
but it's almost finding that balance. Every kid's like I said, every kid's different. You got to find that right balance for each and every person.
Yeah, and like you said, we have first world problems. You know, we're not in Africa or parts of Asia. You know, it could be way worse out there. We're very spoiled, and we got to always recognize and continuously show our children like we are blessed. I want to go to the animals. So I love animals, bro. I got a bunch of chickens. I got rabbits.
Yeah,
You know, I own part of a ranch, so we got a bunch of cows out there, I
yeah,
or
yeah.
beeves or cattle, how whatever one you want to say, and we got sheep, bro. I got a dog. You got a dog, but you got
That's
a
awesome.
bunch of different type of animals. I want, I want, I want my own zoo, bro. So,
Because
but
it's love. It's pure love with the animals. You won't
mhm,
find that faithful person, but you would find that faithful dog. That dog will
mhm.
die for you, man, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, mine. He's right over here sleeping,
Yeah.
and mine and your dog, they're primos because they're both the white with the black spot.
Oh,
You
they got
remember
a
I showed
black
you the
spot.
picture?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, but the thing I want to bring up about the animals is I have a saying that I love, that true masculinity is a warrior. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, because a warrior in a garden, he can have his sword sheathed. He doesn't need to pull it out. He's confident in whatever happens, but he's also loving and can tend to that garden. Versus a gardener in a war is useless. He's running around with his sword out. Any noise, he fucking's pointing it at it. He can't do anything for anybody inside that war. And you're a professional fighter. You put your life on the line each time that you get in the ring, but yet you have the ability, not only from the aspect of being a husband and a father, but to just nurture animals. Talk about, like, from your perspective, how that whole mold actually fits masculinity versus people assuming back in the day that masculinity was kind of confused maybe with like machismo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's very important, especially for this masculinity. I feel that over the years I've been surprised hearing how supposedly horrible it is to be a masculine person.
Yeah.
I mean, on the contrary,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to protect our children? Who
Yep.
will, if you're not a masculine person who doesn't, who isn't prepared for anything, who walk in the door, you never know who's
Mm-hmm.
actually your friend or who isn't ready to prepare to do something to your family. So I can honestly say I've been a bit disappointed in the last couple of years for hearing this toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So I feel it's very important to actually promote this and make it important for our children. When I talk to my son, I tell every time I leave the house, I tell him, you're the one in charge here. You're supposed to protect your mother and your sisters because you're the one, you're the next because you have to. That's how we were raised, and it's very important because we can't expect the women to do it because we got to be completely honest here because uh, a woman's just not as strong as a man. Any
Mm-hmm.
man out there could easily pin her down and damage a woman. So it doesn't matter how much a woman thinks that she could fight. I mean, there are exceptions. You got a Ronda Rousey out there, but how many Ronda Rouseys out there who are going to be able to take out a 200-pound male or a
Mm-hmm.
180-pound male? It's going to be very very hard. So we gotta promote this masculinity person to be ready to prepare to go to war to defend
Yep.
our family members. So um, yeah, it's I feel that for me it was that's how I grew up. When my father always taught me to protect my sisters, to protect everybody around us, and be content. I mean, be prepared. Um, Even though I could fight in the streets, I could defend. I could walk into somebody. You're so prepared and you're so confident on what you have that it doesn't even cross your
Yeah.
mind. That's what boxing and martial arts and all these combat sports give you, that confidence of knowing that you can protect your families, you can protect somebody who's being maybe harassed, who's being um, abused or being taken advantage of. You could be that superhero, the real superhero. We over the years we've been you know, idolizing maybe superheroes, cartoon characters, when the real heroes out there is a 9 to 5 working man, a guy who's a blue collar
Blue collar
person
worker. Yeah.
who goes to war, a guy from the military, a guy from the Marines, and those are their actual superheroes. So, I mean, it's all connected. It's all connected to I feel like to a better for a better world. I feel that over the last couple of years, I do not understand why it's been so penalized to be uh, a masculine person. But I feel it's all united. I feel we got to unite each other to actually promote that, help all our fellow brothers, blue collar blue collar workers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just get the world better. And how do I unite that with animals? I don't have a clear answer to that one. I just feel like, for instance, example, a dog. My dog will go to war anytime with me.
Yep. Yeah.
It's the most faithful animal that I have. My dog is. I love him to death. I
Mm-hmm.
love my dog to death. He's a American pit bull. We got him down in Compton, California. A good friend of mine gave it to me from Compton, so I always like to joke around to him. I hear my friends from Mexico. I tell him he's a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
But then we got a ranch back here, so that's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's more. My ranch is more of a me giving my kids something that I didn't have that I always wanted when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Them value the life of animals, be close to nature, be close to plants, be close to understanding the environment of the world. When I was a kid, I was a big fan of Steve Irwin.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Big fan of Steve
Oh, me
Irwin.
too.
It wasn't my idol wasn't no Spider-Man or Superman. My idol was Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. I would just go crazy seeing everything he would do. Just going with, playing with king cobras, wrestling alligators, wrestling crocodiles,
Mm-hmm.
Burmese pythons, and all sorts of animals. It was just amazing seeing him. And over the years, because of boxing, I was able to be in Mexico City, and there was an animal store there, and at the time, they were very cheap, maybe unresponsibly because of
Mm-hmm.
me. I bought the alligator. I actually bought four of them. I bought two alligators and two crocodiles. And over the time, the crocodiles didn't make it because they were so small. You don't know if they're actually going to make it or not. But the two that did make it were my alligators. And I got the chance to bring them back here to Sonora, which is very far away from Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
And because of my boxing career, I got the chance to buy a good land, a good property down here in El Museo, and that's how my ranch began. Because I wanted to give my crocodile, my alligator, a good size pool for him, and to be have a good lifestyle, a good environment, and that's how my ranch became. Little by little, here comes a goat, here comes a pig, here comes a pony. And one thing I have a lot of animals now on my ranch. I got parrots, but I always want to give them a good lifestyle. So if I got my parents, I made a big aviary. I don't want to give them a small cage. I want to give them a good size for all my animals. So I got my parrots, I got my goats, I got my horses,
Mm-hmm.
I got a big property for my dog Chapo. He's the king of a ranch.
Yeah.
He'll go everywhere, and it's just it's all I give my kids a good lifestyle, being outside, not being in the tablet, not being not being home watching TV. It's actually going outside and running barefoot, in the soil, in the land, and enjoying nature, because I feel that we've been so disconnected with nature
Yep.
that I
Agree.
feel that we got to be a little bit more connected, and know that that life is beautiful with animals, and we got to learn to protect our animals and protect um, our land.
No, I agree. And you mentioned that there's not really a book written for great parenting, but I think it's conversations like this between men who have like similar morals and values and men who are of faith. And when you have community, you were able to bounce off um, parenting, being husband, really just how this conversation is. We're able to bounce those things off and like check one another, how we're raising our children, how we're, being a husband and father. And I think, again, in America, we've kind of lost the whole like community thing. It's been very like individualized. I don't know how it is where you're at down in Mexico, if it's like still tight knit community, but I
It's
think as a culture overall, it kind of like starts to drift away, and we
Yeah,
need
I
to like
mean,
figure out how to bring that back.
we got to figure out how to bring it back. And one thing that I could say is to keep a family united, a good household. A good parent, a good mother. Marriage is very important for me.
Hmm.
Marriage, commitment.
Yep.
Like I said before, I feel commitment has gone off the roof already. There's no real commitment. I got one good example of parenting, which is my grandparents. They're 80 years old, 80 85, and they still hold hands. They're just a beautiful couple. And I may look rough. I may look like the typical boxer. And I feel boxers have this bad image of maybe having a lot of women and just being a bad boy and this and that. And I just hate to see that, man. I hate to see that. I, 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 I refuse to be one of those persons. I want to be more like my grandparents.
Yep.
Those are my role models. They hold hands at that age, and they're so together, so united. And I tell my wife all the time, that's how we should look when we get old. That's how
Yep.
we want. That's my goal, and to be a role model for my kids, because feel I know maybe back in the day it's always been like that, where rap and hip hop, and because I'm a big hip hop fan,
Hmm.
I love hip hop, but then I hear music nowadays where they promote being a single mother, and they say whole life and this that and be this and there's a song "WAP" from Cardi B,
Yeah.
and it's I don't want my children listening to that. I don't want my daughter listening to that. So I would try my best not to, even though I love hip hop, I try not to let them hear that,
Yep.
because we want to promote marriage. We want to promote uh, a united family. But for me to promote that for my children, I gotta, I gotta show that to them. I can't be a father who's with multiple women here and there, and then expect them to actually be faithful to one man, or for two, or my son to one woman. I mean, it's like I said, it's easier said than done, but we shoot for doing the correct thing. Like I said, my example in life, it will always be my grandparents, and I want to one day be like them. Good people who have honor, who keep their word, and just stay together, and fight through problems. We're always gonna have problems, but then you might have a problem with the next person you go to. It's not
Yeah.
what's the saying? It's not always greener on the other
It's
side.
not always green on the other side.
So
Exactly.
every time I talk to my friends and we talk, because I got good friends who are married, and together we always try to talk. Hey man, if you're having it rough, you gotta push through it, because it's not just for you two. It's for our children, for your children,
Hmm.
and I feel that's over the last couple of years, or I don't know where the shift started, where we started becoming, I don't know. Let's not have a committed family, but we got to bring that back. We got to bring that back. Promote and promote that united families household.
Yep. No, I agree. It's something that I try to preach a lot about because when I was growing up, high school, college, um, I wasn't into drinking, but I was into chasing girls. And I didn't have anyone to tell me that's not the life you want to live because eventually it's going to come and haunt you. It's going to come haunt you in a way of maybe insecurities in your wife, haunt you, problems with your marriage, little things like that. So I'm always trying to go, like maybe I didn't live what I'm preaching. I live it now, but I didn't have anyone. So I'm trying to help some of these younger kids that you don't want to live that. You don't want to be the dude who's just always sleeping around. Like you're not going to gain anything from that lifestyle. Like there's no benefit, zero. And when I hear people on social media, guys with tons of followers saying, don't get married till you got $1 million, don't get married until you've slept with 100 women, all those things, it's like that is not good. That's not good at all. Like that whole thought process right there. It's like I think that's terrible for society. The outcome is not very good for that man. I mean, what if he fucking gets a disease that he can never get rid of? It's like, oh, that was a good thought process. You ended up with a disease you'll never get rid of. Now your stock, regardless of that $1 million, how many women are going to want to marry into that? Yeah, I think it's a huge problem, and I personally don't know how to fix it. But it's another reason why I talk about this stuff to hopefully get those younger generations to realize like it's not all what it's fucking talked up to be a guy who just sleeps around and is promiscuous. Like it ain't good.
And I was just about to ask you that. How can we help this, if not just talking about it? We talk about it. So I feel that one thing that we can do is try to help our children,
Yeah, help our
our our
boys.
na- our neighbors,
Hmm.
our close friends, as far as promoting. Just we're not perfect. I know we understand we're not perfect, but we try to do the correct things all the time. At
Hmm.
least be a protective father, and be stay to that one person that who has been with you, side by side. It's like, talk about my case. I talk about my case. I've been with my wife for more than 12, 13 years. And she's been with me before I was a professional boxer. So it's of course, like everything, I became a world champion in 2016 for the first time. WBO 126 pound featherweight, and
Yeah, you
it's
beat the
just
Russian
it's just like
Gradovich.
I beat the Russian.
Yeah.
Then I fought Argentine Matias Reyes. That was for the WBO world champion. And just like the movies, you get the fame, you get the money starts coming in, and all of a sudden I'm a handsome person. All of a sudden, I went from a 6 to an 8. Like,
Yep.
oh, I got women chasing after me now. I was like, well, and it could turn into it could take you to a dark place. I won't lie. It is very tempting. It is very tempting to hey, you look at Instagram. You see someone like Dan Brazilian, who's in a yacht and has multiple women. And it's like, man, that must be the life. But then I feel like that's a very lonely life.
Yeah.
It's a very you don't really have really people who actually love you, and I think love is very important to have that one person who loves you. Um, maybe your grandparents, maybe your mother, but you got to have that wife or that single soul who loves you, that partner.
Mhm.
And in my case, I started seeing people come forward and wanting to be with me and wanting to kick it with me and go out, and it was very tempting, but I had to realize. And then one big part of my life was my father, who had to wake me up and say, "Hey, you got to remember that one thing. You got to remember one thing. Who's been with you since the beginning, man? That's been the people who you know."
Yep.
So I mean, it's like I said before, it wasn't easy because it's very tempting. But one thing that I realized that the one person who's been with you from the beginning is the one person who's worth keeping,
Yeah.
because people don't realize the effort that we put in the gym and in the sacrifice and who's with you in those times, and for you to actually leave that person and go on to a new one,
Mhm.
well, I think that's extremely low and everything. But one big important fact in my life has always been my wife and my children. They're the biggest motivation that I have. I don't understand why there's certain parents who would leave their kids, and it's something that we feel like that wouldn't happen,
Mhm.
but it's more common than we expect. I hear a story here that the mother left their children. I hear over there the father just left over here to be with another woman. So as far as we can't change the world, and understand that how the world is shifting to a more less masculinity place.
Yeah.
But what we can do is maybe tell our neighbor, our cousins, our brothers, our children, try to keep those morals and values that our own parents taught us, or that we didn't. Maybe some people didn't say, like you say, you didn't have no one who tell you. But I feel deep inside of our heart, we know what's right and what's wrong.
That's
Right?
true.
We
That's
know
not a
what's
lie.
right, and we know when
Uh-huh.
you can't lie to yourself unless you're a narcissistic person. But we'll just try to maybe help out our fellow brothers and sisters.
Yeah, no. I think talking about it, like you said, family, friends, like my friends, people who are in my community, their sons, like I'm not scared to coach them on like, hey kid, you don't want to be doing that. Like they're not my kids, but I feel like if we're a community and trying to get our morals and values straight, then we should be willing to say things. And if you ask my wife, sometimes she says that she needs to wear a hat that says I'm sorry for what my husband says, because I'm not the kind of guy who's going to hold my tongue. Now I don't ever put someone down, but I'm not scared to say nothing. Like I'm not a straight dickhead, but it's like, hey, that ain't right. We shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be treating your kid that way or something. I'll say something to a stranger. And people get offended about that. But the reality, if someone's got to tell them,
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I feel people know what's wrong and
mm,
what's right. Deep down in their heart, we know what's right, but it's always good to maybe give a wake up call. Give a wake up call. Hey, man, we don't. I think we shouldn't be doing this as a society. We shouldn't be. We know that we shouldn't steal from the store.
mm,
I feel the laws in California, laws in certain places where people are
dude,
walking in and acting like they didn't do nothing. Oh, it's okay because if you rob less than $300, it's not a crime.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that's wrong. You know
Yeah.
that's wrong. If I were to see that, I would tell you. I know you know that that's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and you shouldn't be doing that. I don't care how hard you have it right now. It's not correct to do that. It's not correct to maybe hit a woman. It's not correct to hit a and be abusive to to the
Yeah.
children to the kids. So somebody has to speak up. But I feel nowadays it's very scary to speak up. It's very scary to be, we shouldn't be teaching that in school. Kids, we shouldn't be doing this and that. Somebody who speaks up, this whole cancel culture, it's gone out of hands. You got perfect examples out there, and people who try to speak up, they've been silenced. And so we need more people like you. We need more people like Elon Musk who
Yeah.
does give a voice to other people and say, there's no censorship here. I look at social media and my algorithm is only strong people. Someone like Dana White who says, "No, you're not going to silence me. If I want to vote
Yep.
for someone like Donald Trump, that's my decision. That's my vote.
True. It
You
should
should
be.
you shouldn't tell me who I want to vote. Who should I vote to? That's what's being a Democrat or a democratic country.
Mm-hmm.
We got the right to vote and to vote for whoever we want. So it's like I admire someone like Dana White who has the guts to actually say that, because nowadays, like I said, everybody's so scared of telling what's in their mind because scared of being canceled, and that's why I'm glad we're kind of having this conversation. We don't, it's the first time I actually have a conversation like this um, in a podcast or in an interview or anywhere, because me and my cousin Bubba always talk about this, how important it is, but how I would never say this on the internet because I'll get canceled. So
Yeah.
it's like good thing that we're actually talking about something like this, promoting somewhat masculinity and someone who protects our children and family members, because somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do the job that the dirty work that the other people doesn't want to do.
Yeah. And it's something that I'm passionate about, and I'm not worried if anyone tries to cancel me. I'm not worried about what these people's thoughts are, because at the end of the day, they're not going to accomplish my dreams or goals for me, and they're not going to be the ones who raise my kids. I am. And if I think that there's something wrong with society, like, I'm just going to do it. And when I have a guest on my show, I let them know, like, we're talking about masculinity, faith, being a husband and a father, and you might be a professional boxer, a skier, or a multimillionaire because you sold a business, but it's like, I don't really want to necessarily talk about those things because tons of people already talk about that stuff with you guys. It's like, I want to talk about something different that I think is more
Yeah.
important and can get to a broader audience. Not that they're gonna listen, but they, like you said, it's on their heart that they probably should be listening.
And how hard is it over there to talk about this? I feel that somewhere like in Truckee or Lake Tahoe or whatever
Mhm.
your small spots, it's easier to talk about this. And where I'm from right here, it is a small town, and it is somewhat easier to talk to. But every time I go somewhere like San Diego, or I go to the whole state of California, I feel like I'm so worried about speaking,
Yeah.
so worried about talking, because I might say the wrong thing that offends somebody that I don't want to be canceled. I just want to go through my day and work out and just go
Hmm.
on with my life, go with my children. I don't want to be looked as a bad guy. But how hard is it over there? There's a song that I love. It's a country song. It's "Try That in a Small Town."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a beautiful song, and because it talks about what we're talking about right now.
Hmm.
It's always easier to talk about this in somewhat small towns.
Yeah. And I think I'm just going out on a limb. I think even in bigger towns, there's people who would agree with us, but they, like in San Diego, LA, but they're actually worried of what would happen if they did speak out. Could
Just
they
like
lose their job? Are people going to try and dig up something from their past that was a joke? It's, to me, it's wild that we fucking even care about some of those things, or it's wild that we can't speak our mind. Like, the United States, our First Amendment is fucking freedom of speech. It's like we should be able to say whatever we want without it hurting anyone's feelings. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
where do we go from here to not where do we go from here? Just maybe start speaking out what's on our minds without. How do we control this as far as not being canceled, and because I don't feel we're talking about something negative here.
no,
Honestly, I feel we're not talking something negative. If I am, I wish somebody will please tell me what is wrong that we're talking about here. What is wrong about being someone who's masculine,
hmm
um, protecting their families? Um, and there's a legitimate question out there. What's so wrong about being a masculine person? Everybody knows that if you're a masculine person, maybe you beat up the wife. Well, that's wrong.
yeah,
We
that's not
we
masculinity.
all, we all agree that's not that's being a coward.
Yeah,
What's wrong about being a tough father or a tough parent if the result is to make your children better than we are?
hmm
They're saying, I love this saying that your father is always going to be that one person who wants you to be bigger than he is. He's the
yes,
only male who wants you to be bigger than he is. And when
hmm
I heard that for the first time, it touched my soul, it touched my heart because my father is a very strong person, very strong, very very how do I say it? Very masculine person. And then if you look at him, he looks grumpy maybe. He maybe look like he's a mean person. But I know that he's a very loving parent. He has a lot of heart in him, and he's a very passionate person. He might not show it, but he is. And every time we talk about it, I can hear him speak out and say the words that he wants me to be bigger than he is. He wants me to be bigger than what he went through, and I want my son to be bigger than what I am,
yeah,
and so on and so forth.
yeah. It's true. I mean, I think only an insecure father wouldn't cheer on their son to surpass them in every facet of manhood.
I agree. I agree, and it's like what as a parent, you just want the best for your children. And then we go back to the same conversation we had at the beginning. It's it's learning to balance the maybe giving what you didn't have, but not giving too much because then they lose the value of appreciating what they had. Then they become what we were talking about earlier. Spoiled kids, and then they grow up. There's a case down here in Mexico where a very famous um, rich kid from a 3 generation rich kid, you know, suffered no consequences when he was a kid. Suffered no consequences. He became an influencer, and walks in the streets, undeniable, doing whatever he wants because he has the money to do it, and bends the rules, bends the laws, does whatever he wants. He's gotten away with it year over year over year, where he commits a crime and doesn't pay the price. So not too long ago, give it a week ago. It's very dangerous to teach your kid to not teach your kids that there's gonna be you gotta be held accountable.
hmm
There's you gotta be responsible, and everything you do there's an action for what you do. This kid did not have none of that his whole life because he was a 3rd generation spoiled kid, and he never had a parents who taught him what's right, what's wrong. Even though like I said, he knows deep inside what was wrong. Well, not too long ago, this kid, a 50-year-old woman, hits his car by accident. This kid gets out and starts beating the woman up, beating her with his fist. Drops the lady and starts hitting her on the floor and kicking her. When men got off the car to try to take her away, the coward runs, hops in the car, and leaves. Well, that ended for him. That ended him because it was recorded. People recorded that. So now all Mexico it's on him. So what do they do right now? He's been sentenced now. He's sentenced to 13 years to 40 years in prison. So good luck for that
Good
guy.
luck. Yeah.
So what was the whole result of 3 generations? His grandparents having gas stations and good and such sacrifice for his father to apparently passed away and he wasn't able to teach his kid discipline and teach his kid what was wrong was right. This poor kid did whatever he wanted to for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the price? For his mother, that having your children, having your son in jail, having ruined his life now because he didn't have discipline. He didn't know what was every action he made. There was gonna be an action for everything he did.
Yeah.
And now he's paying the price. And everybody, the worst part about that, nobody has sympathy for him.
Yeah.
Nobody has now one sympathy for him. And the another thing is that, you know, he's gonna have it rough in prison down here in Mexico.
Oh, I bet.
So that should be a clear example for us parents. And me and my wife talk about that because sometimes it's go back and forth with my wife as far as maybe I did take it a step too far as telling them what's wrong, what's right. Because the mother is always going to try to protect his children as a mother, as the mother role model, the loving person. So it's almost like a good cop, bad cop. Most of the times the father is the bad cop, and the mother is the good cop. At least that's in our role. And so I tell my wife, we don't want to see our, I would think that I failed as a father to see my son in prison. So as of right now, as this age, when my sons are small and my daughters are small, I try to teach them these things that you do something wrong, there's a consequence you're gonna pay in life. So it's trying to balance that, not giving them too much, but giving them just enough and educating our kids for them to just be better than us as parents.
Yep. With my son, I got two sons, and they know that there's no such thing as get out of jail free card with dad. I have way more patience than them. They can they can be pissed, fight, scream, whatever, and I'll just sit there, fucking cold as ice. It's like, bro, I'll sit here all through the night and the next morning because I can out patience you. Or if they try to be like, can I get out early? Can I do this? It's like, no. Guess what? Because I let them make a decision. So my thing is, I put the power in their hand in a way. It's like, okay, you don't want to do this. You get option A, or you get option B. You decide, and that's what we're sticking to. And 99% of the time, they'll pick the better option. But regardless, I always make them pick one, and I stick to it. I stick to it like fucking stone cold, and they have to miss out on something. So like, I'll give you an actual like example. I'll be like, hey, go pull up the trash cans or go get the mail because like they do chores, and they can say no. It's like, okay, he says no, or unload the dishes. It's like, okay, just so you know, if you're saying no, that means you're not participating in the family activities. If you're not pulling your weight, you don't get any, we'll just say like ice cream. And ice cream for us, because I'm a food snob, I don't give my kids no fucking sugar, no junk shit. So ice cream for us is my wife puts raw milk.
Yeah.
We got raw milk. She puts an a raw egg yolk in the blender. She puts blueberries, and she'll put chocolate powder, protein powder, and fucking that's it. And blends it, but she makes it to where it's thick, and then she puts it in the freezer for a little bit, and it's fucking good. But I'll be
Man.
like, guess what? If you're not participating in the family household chores, you're not getting ice cream after dinner. And that's our ice cream. And they'll be like, all right. And then they'll sit there and they'll be like, I want the ice cream. And it's like, you fucking picked, bud. You picked. So they know that dad is serious when I tell them like you're not gonna do this. Or if we're going, let's say we're gonna go to the zoo, I'll tell them if you're gonna act up, you can either cooperate with us, get ready, or I'm dropping you off at grandma's house. And they love my mom. They love grandma.
Yeah.
But they still want to go to the zoo and see the jaguar and the snow leopard and all that, right? And it's like, I will literally drop their ass off the one, and then we go. They know it. So then they get their shit together. But it's when we parent to the point where it's like, we let them get away with it. We still give them that ice cream, even though we said we weren't. So then they fucking know. They're young and they just know it's like, I got you in my hand. You're
So,
going to
so
give in.
the one thing that I always heard about, my father is, keep your promise.
Yeah.
That's the key. If we said it until it's all right, you did that, but and now you're not gonna get this result.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your promise always, and I feel that's one thing that has worked because we said, all right, you're not gonna do this, all right, you're not going. You got to
Yeah.
keep that. It's hard, but it's always harder. Well, in our case, it's harder for the mother.
Yeah. Same. Same. I think it's
If
always going to be across the board.
it's like, oh, you're taking it a little bit too far. I was like, no, because they got to know there is consequences for any little thing. So I'm guilty as that as well as far as candy, and I've always been a person who tries to at least feed my family right.
Mm-hmm.
Not give them the junk food. Not we're not gonna eat a hot dog.
Dude, we don't eat no fucking hot dogs together.
There's no junk food here. We
Yeah.
gotta educate as far as not being the just going to having a candy rush.
Yeah.
So I'm guilty of that as well. But I think the key right here is like you said, just keeping your promise, which like I said, easier said than done. Mostly for the most part, is for the mother.
Yeah. And I look at it like this way too. If we're not willing to keep our word with our kids, are we willing to keep our word with our wife? Are you willing to keep your word with Eddie? Am I willing to keep my word with business partners? Now, someone might say, well, it's just your kid. It's like, yeah. And he's going to fucking follow your example to a T. That's the thing. Our kids, we're supposed to be superheroes
Yes.
to our kids, whether we have sons or daughters. So they're going to look at us and they know exactly if we're a superhero or if we're a fraud. And so if we're a fraud, what's going to keep them from going, I can say whatever I want in life and it doesn't matter because there's no consequences. No one, I can be flaky to my friends. It's like, no, we teach them that that's not appropriate. Like you say something, you stick to your guns.
I mean, like in my case, I always looked up to my father. My father's always been my biggest role model.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest role model, the person who I wanted to be. I wanted to always be just like my father. That I got the good from him, and he's not. There's nobody's out there. Nobody out there is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but the good things that he did, I at least make sure that I take that good things that he did, and made me who I am. So I use the same schooling system that my father has. My son was in love with wrestling.
Yeah.
He,
My
I took
boys
him to
wrestle,
yeah,
both of
and
them.
I love the fact that they wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
It's combat sport. They get it's very hard and builds them up. And it's then again, sports is discipline. It
Mm-hmm.
teaches them discipline, and so I tell them, there's no good grades, you're not gonna go to wrestling no more.
Yep.
And we did keep our promise. The one time he didn't get the good grades, like, well, you're not going. And he cried, and my wife tried to, and I said, no, nope, this is what, and I pulled my wife to the side. I was, remember that story I told you about how it was? It's gonna work. Believe me, it's gonna work. My son loves this so much, just like I love boxing. And it's only for it's only for his benefit.
Yeah.
And I tell her this, and then she kind of believes me, and then kind of calms down and sucks it up a bit. But it's a team. That's why then we go back again with the family household. We gotta stick together and in marriage. The wife and the husband be together for the children, and for us as well. We gotta battle it out. Any problem that we have for just to be healthy.
Yeah. And I think you made a perfect point right there that just because we're talking about how we got to stick to our guns and moms sometimes want to give in, that doesn't mean that we just go, hey, wife, what we say goes. You said you'll pull your wife to the side and have that like sidebar and conversation and kind of explain and be making sure that you guys are having dialogue. And I think that is important communication on how we're going to parent. And even if she doesn't agree with me, it's like I'll just keep having these conversations, not till she gives in, but she understands why it is that I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think sometimes, husbands, or at least husbands, I'll say they'll be like, man, that's like a lot of work. Or husbands that I'll talk to, it's like, well, she should just want to do, or they'll be fucking just give in. Too many husbands, I think, also just give in and let the wife run the show with the kids, which that's also terrible.
I mean, like I said, it has to be a balance.
Yeah.
The wife does have to realize that it's not because we're trying to be hard. We're not trying to make it harder for our children. It's because we have to do this
Mm-hmm.
for their own good, and um, it's sad to see those cases where the mother has the full control of the husband and the children,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel maybe that's the part where I think the masculinity maybe has a bad image as far
Yeah.
as the macho thing where the father has to control the whole things, the whole situation. Well, most of the times I feel that the situation has to be controlled by logic,
Mm-hmm.
not by emotions, because I feel that most of the times the mother is going to be the more emotional part, and it is necessary in the early stages. But after, like we said before, the 6, 7, or 8ish, you do need that discipline from the father to teach them what's right and what's wrong, and how cruel reality is. So, good thing. I'm happy that hearing this from you, how you are with your children, and that we're talking this because, like I said before, it's the first time actually me just talking about this situation
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's not the normal questions that I get. I get the typical "When is the next fight?"
Yeah.
But this is way more useful
Mm-hmm.
than the boxing situation. I mean, I enjoy this talking because it's only for a better lifestyle for our children.
Yep.
We should promote. I feel that we should promote also empathy for everybody. There's no
Yeah.
criticism towards other people. Masculinity doesn't maybe mean you have to be a homophobic person. Maybe I feel this whole leftish area is
Yeah.
just got to, or maybe someone's a homophobic person, but it's not. That's not. We should always be promoting empathy for each other, empathy and just loving and just sharing a good heart with your neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Promoting a good environment for everybody else, and there's no judgment. They're just trying to have your children in the right path and not end up like the example that I put about this kid down
Yep.
in Mexico. So it's we don't want to see those cases. Like I said before, we might have this whole bad image of a bad boy. The boxing community have this multiple women, but that's not what I try to promote. That's not what I try to preach. I try to have a good family household, raising good your children, being educated, and just being having a better lifestyle for the next generations. Being inspired the new generations, like I was inspired by my father,
Mm-hmm.
inspired by my grandparents. I wish everybody could see how they are. They're old and they still hold hands and they're just like they're boyfriend and girlfriend when they were 16 years old. It's all beautiful. It's
That's
all
the
beautiful.
goal.
So I tell the wife, hey, that's our goal, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be a long path for that.
How much time do you have left?
I mean, I got time right now. Just that we got the time here at the gym. We're actually in my office here in my gym, and I hear people already hitting the punching bag. I don't know if you can hear that
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now.
I can hear.
So it's punching bags is right here. So I was like, I don't want it to interrupt the whole podcast, but
Well, I
it
don't
might get
mind. We can keep going, or we can schedule a part two. It's up to you.
it might get louder in the next couple of minutes. Um, I'm down for part two if you
Let's
want to
do
because
a let's do a part two because
this is a good conversation, man.
yeah,
I honestly can say that I love the fact that we're talking about this, and and while we were talking, I was thinking to myself, I was like, wow, what can we do to change this?
mm-hmm.
There's not we really can't do much but to talk about this. Maybe have
Yeah,
other people listen to this and say, I maybe agree with you. And if there's not somebody who doesn't agree with us, I honestly want to hear what is it that's wrong with being a masculine person?
Yep.
What is wrong with being somebody who tries to have people who are married to continue a family who's happily married or whatnot? You know, I do want to hear this because if I'm doing something wrong, I want to hear it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I can go on for a couple minutes on that one because I don't think there's anything wrong, and not because I'm biased. I think people have been confusing that word masculinity, kind of how we talked about a little earlier, and putting a rotten apple and saying that that is an example of masculinity. When if you ask a masculine man, like someone who, like a man who's quick to anger, quick to yell at his wife, quick to yell at his kids, just insecure, never apologizes, uses his voice for fear, and then trying to use intimidation among children and his wife. That's not a fucking masculine man. That's like an insecure man. He doesn't know how to lead. So he has to raise his voice. You know animals, so I like to do this. It's an insecure dog will bark often out of fear, and his tail is between his legs. But he's barking, hair up, barking. A confident dog has, chest up, ears up, just looking. Tail can be up, wagging tail. He is waiting. He doesn't need to bark. Maybe he does give a bark, but he's not doing it out of insecure. He's doing it out of a hey, I'm here. There's a whole different posture with an insecure dog and a confident dog. And we get this thing with men confused of what was masculinity, when it's like that actually never was masculinity. You could go back 200 years, that was not a masculine man. you know the thing that I'm trying to promote with what masculinity is, I mean, masculinity is the very foundation of a marriage. Masculinity is stoic. Masculinity has just all these features, kind of how we were saying, the ability to go to war and the ability to just love and like nurture, the ability to just defend his neighbor, his family with honor. It's a masculine man who goes into the night and fucking kills Osama bin Laden.
Exactly.
It's like just little things like this. And it's a masculine man, how you were saying, who is just can be quiet and confident, doesn't need to unsheath his sword, like a professional fighter. How, like you're saying, you get to a point where it's like there's no reason for me to fight anyone on the street. There's just not. It's
You're confident what you have. You're
yeah.
confident. I feel most of the times with people who fight in the streets, who want to fight maybe in the club and the bar, are very insecure people who want to show that they're the tough guy. They want to show the
Mm-hmm.
world that I am a bad guy. I am a good fighter. When on the contrary, when you know you can fight, when you know you can mess this guy up if you want to, you don't got to show the world.
Mm-hmm.
The people around you know that you can do it. It's like I don't got to show you nothing, man. For your own safety, back up.
Yeah, dude, I mean,
so it's like
I
in
liked
those cases.
I liked fighting in high school for the challenge. I wanted to test myself, and I loved it. And even in college, I'd never been in a fight drunk. Never. And I never wanted to fight anyone drunk though either. If they were drunk, it's like, dude, you can get my number and you can call me tomorrow when you're sober. And guess how many dudes call?
Oh no.
None.
They,
None.
they, they probably wake up the next day and feel so stupid.
they, they probably feel so relieved. I mean, it's one of those interesting things where I knew guys who were the meanest, toughest fucking dudes drunk. And it's like, do you ever just wonder like where that guy goes when you're sober? Like I
Yeah.
would ask him because there would be guys who like I knew, but they weren't in my close circle. But like you knew, and it's like, where did that guy go? How come I've never seen him without the alcohol? And it's because they weren't as tough as they thought they were.
Insecure people, who
Exactly.
want to show that
Hmm.
they're these bad guys. They get so what's the word? They get brave.
Hmm.
One sip of alcohol, man. Those ain't the real man. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not us. Like, we're talking about masculinity. That's the opposite on
Yeah.
this whole. Because, this whole, like I said before, there's something that we're doing wrong as far as we're doing right as masculinity. I would love to hear it. I
Yeah,
would love to
me
hear it
too.
as far as
If I
the
would
fact that,
leave a comment on if we're talking about something and we'll address it,
uh,
like that. I love that. Like someone who leaves a genuine comment. It's like, I'll talk about that.
yeah, I'll talk about it. And it's I'm not trying to fight anybody as far as going back and forth. I'm honestly
Yeah.
not. I'm a type of person that likes, to protect my family. Type of person who likes to stay home, stay simple, no beef with nobody. But if, like I said, if we're doing something wrong, I would like to hear about it so we don't do it.
Hmm.
If we're doing something wrong, or if we're saying something wrong as well, we don't want to promote violence. We don't want to promote something that it's not. But if there's somebody going in your house or somebody who's actually doing some harm to somebody else, well, who's going to stand up for those people? So, like I said, leave a comment. Leave a comment. I would love to hear it. I would love
Yeah.
to. Um, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah. And everyone stay tuned for part two.
Yeah,
Oscar, you'll have to text me um, what works and we'll
yeah,
do part two because there's so much more we can talk about, man. I still
yeah.
got other
Well, we
some.
can go on. We can go on for
Yeah.
sure. I love it. I love it. I love it.